Hi guys, so I hope you're having a really good Halloween. This video is going to help you get prepared for Monday's class. So what this video will go over is America and the Caribbean as well as Latin America. So as we talked about before, after the Spanish-American War was over, Puerto Rico was handed to the United States. And the United States established a civil government with the governor and Congress. So Cuba, if you recall, when we talked about how they were fighting for independence from Spain. And so the United States steps in, we win the Spanish-American War, and we did grant Cuba a little bit of independence. They became our protectorate, meaning that yes, they technically were a sovereign country. However, if you remember that we talked about just today, that they had to agree to the Platt Amendment. Now, the Platt Amendment was an addition to Cuba's constitution, saying that the United States had the right to intervene in any issues that it deemed necessary. Now, if you look at the proximity of Cuba to the United States, it kind of makes sense, because if Cuba has something going on with some other country, that could be a threat to us. And so the location is a huge part of the reason why the United States had such a huge interest in Cuba, as well as the other Caribbean countries. So the Panama Canal. In Latin America, there was the country of Panama. Now, Panama was having a disagreement with Colombia and needed the United States' help. And so we agreed to do that on the condition that they allowed us to build what you see right here. We looked at Panama and saw that strategically, this would be the best place to to build a pass that would allow us to connect the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. Because before, what we had to do was go all the way around South America. Okay, and with the building of the Panama Canal, now we're able to go a lot quicker. So this is good for both business and military strategy. So the United States needed a shortcut through Latin America. Panama's the narrowest. We helped them get independence from Colombia, and Panama's also granted access of the Panama Canal Zone. Now, interestingly enough, when this contract was drawn up, the United States was able to go through this area for free all the way up until the year 2000. Now, back in this time, of course, the year 2000 seemed like a really long way away, but that has come and gone, and now the United States needs to pay for this access. So there were challenges, absolutely, in building the canal. And the length of time it took was in itself a challenge. 10 years, $400 million. Thousands of lives were lost. And in the next slide, you'll see the different elevations and lock system associated with the canal. But also there was a problem with yellow fever. The French had before made some effort in Panama, only to fail because of the yellow fever epidemic. So what Theodore Roosevelt did was he sent in a doctor to go in and really fight against those mosquitoes. But within a year, he was able to eliminate the yellow fever threat, and they were able to move on with the building of the canal. So here's the locking system. Also, I'm going to be posting another video, and it's only a minute and a half. It'll give you a brief little summary on the Panama Canal, and I think you'll learn a lot from it. So let's move on to another one of Roosevelt's triumphs, and that was the Roosevelt Corollary. We'll be going over this in extent in class. But basically, what the Roosevelt Corollary was, it was drawing on the Monroe Doctrine. Okay, so the Monroe Doctrine was something that was implemented during President James Monroe's presidency in 1823. And what it basically said is that any European countries could not come and meddle in the Western Hemisphere. So everything west of the Prime Meridian, basically Europeans needed to stay out. Okay, and also the Platt Amendment after the Spanish-American War also helped set that precedent for Theodore Roosevelt to assert his authority in the Western Hemisphere. So for close to, or a little over 3/4 of a century, the Monroe Doctrine had warned Europeans not to intervene. However, now it's a little bit different for the United States after the Spanish-American War, because now we come with military might and power. So in 1904, Theodore Roosevelt presented the Roosevelt Corollary to Congress. Okay, it's a document. He prohibited European countries to collect debts. So what was happening was a lot of these Latin American, Caribbean countries were borrowing money from the Europeans in order to develop their industries and build their railroads and stuff. And so what would happen is these countries a lot of the time couldn't pay back that debt. And so the European countries would say, well, because you can't pay your debt, now we're going to invade your country. So Theodore Roosevelt says, no, you know what? You're not going to be able to collect these debts. We as the United States will act as the international police power, and we will make sure that those debts are paid. So basically, we are the power in the Western Hemisphere. You can't come in as the power and try and go into these Caribbean and Latin American countries. We were the international police power, as per Roosevelt and the Roosevelt Corollary. We're also going to be doing an analysis of this political cartoon, so stay tuned for that. Pretty soon it was known as the big stick policy, and you'll know why by Monday. So dollar diplomacy. Remember that after Theodore Roosevelt was no longer president, Howard Taft comes in, and he encouraged bankers to invest in the Caribbean, especially when they couldn't repay those debts that had been taken from European countries. So if they had taken on a debt that they couldn't pay, the U.S. would not only send in troops, but they would also, what Taft also did is that he encouraged American bankers to help repay those loans. And so in return, American businesses were now going to be in control of, say, for example, one prime example would be when they went in and took over Nicaragua's railroad and banking systems. And this was proof that dollar diplomacy worked, because we kept the European countries out of Nicaragua, one of the countries that couldn't repay its debts, and we were able to salvage that. So basically, Taft had the idea that dollars influence just as much as bullets do, and that the United States can step in and help to stabilize countries that are otherwise unstable to prevent other outside influence. Okay, so that is going to be the end of our video. Please be ready for Monday, and please check out that additional 1.5-minute video on the Panama Canal. Also, depending on where your class left off on the video of America Becomes a World Power, please also be sure to watch that. For all of you, it's going to be less than 10 minutes. For some of you, it's only going to be 5 minutes. Some of you, it's even going to be even less than that. So please make sure to check that out. You have the whole weekend. It's on Edmodo. Thanks. Bye.